Welcome back to Invest Global. Today we continue on with our Launchpad ecosystem map series. We've talked about the Solana blockchain, we've talked about Cardano, we've talked about Avalanche, layer 2 scaling solutions on Ethereum, Polygon, and today really what we're focusing on is consolidating all of the really top 3 Launchpad projects. You could put them in that category, right? So one of them is much more of like a fundraising platform. We'll get to that last, which is Hio. And the first two are more traditional launchpads, as we talk about. Obviously, there's many different ways of describing launchpads, but essentially what you're allowing people to do is take this same system of centralized finance where you're able to access only private companies if you're an accredited investor. So you have to have over $1 million of net worth, go through a bunch of paperwork, all these different things. And hey, you can get this whether you know about investing or not. It's not a knowledge-based system. And it's really kind of archaic in my opinion. When you look at legacy finance, private versus public company investing. But the beautiful thing about blockchain is we're breaking down the barriers there. It doesn't matter where you're from. None of these things matter. And especially, the beautiful thing is in the traditional finance ecosystem, you can get disproportionately kind of manipulated if it's like all demographic based. I think it should be open equity to everyone. And that's a beautiful thing, again, that I love about blockchain. That's why we're doing this whole Launchpad ecosystem map series. So again, we're focusing today on the Near platform. Again, if you don't understand Near, one of kind of the main selling points is this incredibly fast transaction ecosystem where you look at TPS, so transactions per second. I like to focus on Solana because they have incredible fast TPS when you contrast it with Ethereum. Ethereum's right around 30 TPS, so transactions per second. Solana, 50,000 TPS, so way up here. Near, 100,000 TPS. So you have to understand always with this, when you only look at that one factor and you look at it just in a vacuum, hey, it can look incredible. You might go, hey, why isn't Near the best blockchain out there? You have to look at other things like Metcalfe's law, right? So what's the actual user adoption? What's the total amount of people in the network using it consistently? Some other things like tokenomics. So you have to understand that the Near token, and again, I'm going to lay out kind of the foundation here with Near and then move into these other 3 launchpads. So keep that in mind throughout this video. That's why I have timestamps throughout the whole thing. But I just want to break this down for you so you understand Near a little bit better. Also, if you want to see a deep dive video on any of these things that we talk about, whether it's a Launchpad, an individual video on them, I'd be happy to do that. Let me know in the comments, or you can join our Telegram group, which is linked down below in the description. We can have more kind of long form conversations. Also, I can do a deep dive video on Near. But back to the point at hand, as I was saying with tokenomics, technically the Near token is inflationary. But the beautiful thing is the actual fees. So just like Ethereum, the gas fees, with Near, they essentially burn the fees. So it can potentially be a deflationary mechanism if the fees outweigh that inflation. So these are all things where if I did a deep dive video, I would go much more in depth. But I hope you understand kind of the basic concept around Near. We'll get into more things. The other thing that they also pitch, I just like to always look at, what is the differentiating factor, right? So if you look like at the Venn diagram, remember that they taught everyone in school, right? You take 2 circles. There's obviously things on either side that are different, and then the things that are in the middle. With blockchains, the things that are in the middle, everybody's focusing on, launching new projects. Everybody's focused on decentralization, scalability, security, speed. These are all kind of buzzwords in the space, all amazing things, right? But you have to look, okay, what is different? What's kind of the value add to this whole crypto space? And with them, I kind of talked about some of those things there, but also they're very, very focused on the climate side of things, which is pretty cool because this was a massive concern. I do like Near for the long term, but it is just not people aren't just talking about it. And sadly, we are kind of in this early stage. It can be either sad or good, right? Depending on how you use it. Some people are just looking for short-term gains. Personally, I like to invest. I'm not just investing in crypto, right? On the channel, I talk about all different things, emerging markets, real estate, stocks, whatever, commodities, all these different markets. Crypto is truly the wild, wild west, right? So you have to identify what are the quality projects, break down, what's Amazon versus what's pets.com. So that's enough ranting. As I said here, we're going to actually move on from the main Near platform, right? So all these launchpads are built on Near, which again, Near essentially took all the best from all these different blockchains, applied it to their ecosystem, did this kind of like testnet thing. Now they're launching actual projects. And essentially with this top 3 list, we're going to start off with the most traditional launchpad, then which is really the Nearpad ecosystem. Then we'll move on to Skyward Finance, and then lastly Hio, which is a bit more of like a fundraising platform, right? So when I say launchpads, it's really focusing on launching new projects, right? So just like with different aggregators. So like DuckDuckDime, for example, some people would say it's much more of an incubator versus just a traditional launchpad or its IDO. So all different things, but the category that we're talking about here is launchpads in general, right? So early stage projects, just like with fundraising platforms, okay? So you can see here the actual near price is important to understand. With all these different ecosystems, for example, Skyward, you don't actually use their individual token, you use the near token, okay? And you can also use stable coins. We'll get into more details with that, but you can see the near token here, around 18,000 people like this, so I always like to use that for sentimental analysis. Okay, what's going on as far as their engagement on Telegram, how many people are actually tracking this token, what's going on, on their Medium, on the Twitter, which, by the way, follow Near. If you follow any of these, follow Near, right? Because this kind of gives you a hub for all of them, and essentially what Near allows you to do is they'll retweet, or maybe they'll send updates of these other Launchpad projects on their Twitter. So also follow us at investglobal_IO. By the way, everything we talk about throughout this video, make sure you're on the official links. That's where we have them linked down below every single video we do in the description, so you can follow Near protocol. Let's move on, okay? So Nearpad is really our first projects here that we're going to be focusing on. Like I said, this is kind of more traditional, but again, you have to understand all of these are extremely early stage. You can see here there are actually no current projects launching, but the main thing is, the whole point of the series again is some of these are so overdeveloped where the minimum you need is like $10,000, right? Or some of the all-time highs, it was like $30,000, which in relative terms isn't all that much, but again, it all depends on obviously how much capital you have and how early you got into the project. But with something like this or another project that we talked about, like a Solpad, when we just finished up with the Solana ecosystem. And throughout this whole series, we've been talking about all these. By the way, again, that playlist, the whole entire series, I highly recommend you go check out, or at least save, is linked down below in the description. But so many people complain about, hey, I can't get into this because the minimum amount necessary is so high, right? So if that's what you're complaining about, you got to take it into your own responsibility, take it into your own hands and go, okay, I need to research on what are some of these projects that are actually doing quality things. You need to obviously audit their white paper, do your own research with any of these things, including Near, just in general, but especially low market cap altcoins. Link down below in the description. I keep saying that, but it's important, right? To understand these resources that I have on this channel is my entire video on how to do your own research. So breaking down fundamental, sentimental, technical, and on-chain analysis to really identify, okay, what's a quality project versus what's a not quality project, and kind of understanding that. But very, very early stage, you can see they actually don't have any things launched. If you go ahead and you click go to app, it basically just takes you a page where there is nothing actually launched yet. You can see, you can actually subscribe here, stay up to date for the upcoming pools. If you hit here, view pools, like I said, there's nothing launched yet. But essentially, they describe themselves as the DeFi hubs, the decentralized finance hub for the Near ecosystem to bootstrap innovations, monitor, and manage digital assets. So very interesting as far as that goes. They talk about bootstrapping innovations. You can see no active pools, no upcoming pools, all those are hidden. You can see the team here, so I do always like to look at that as far as fundamental and kind of more sentimental analysis. What's the team up to? How many Medium articles do they have? One of the things I always talk about with this series is this. So the tiers, right? The breakdown of what's the actual allocation you would need to gain access to this, so you understand, okay, what is the amount of the PAD token, ticker symbol PAD, that you would actually need to enter into an IDO. And they basically break it down here, saying they have a 5-tier system. Now, I wish they had this a little bit better laid out. It wasn't on the FAQ. Like for Solana, for example, like Solanium, Solpad, Solstarter, because they all have a different way of breaking it down, right? Like CardStarter has the aces, the face cards, the number cards, and then Solanium is Greek gods. They kind of make it interesting, right? Just to capture people's attention. But here, maybe they'll do this moving forward. Maybe they're listening, and hopefully they do. But that's one thing I would recommend is, have this on your home screen, right? You need to have some things that are actually up so people can see, so it's a bit more interesting. But that's the whole point of this series, again, is digging through little things like this where little minutia, which most people wouldn't even think about. But they break it down right here. So they basically say they have a 5-tier system that follows the entry tier pegged to 1,000 actual PAD tokens with a multiplier of 1. The second tier, so I'm assuming this is not a lottery system, so you have to always break that down. Is it a lottery versus is it a guaranteed allocation? Typically, if they don't say lottery, so if they don't say, for example, CardStarter, we were just talking about that, those kind of first cards, right? I think it's deuces, singles, or something like that, and maybe 3. That kind of first tier, it's the minimum is $2,500 to get in, and you have a 10% allocation with that. Or sorry, not a 10% allocation, a 10% lottery. So your chances are 1 out of 10, right? So this is something you always have to keep in mind, but I really like guaranteed allocation Launchpad. So that's essentially what I'm assuming here. Again, you can let me know in the comments if you think it's something different. And by the way, just to reiterate, let me know if you want to see any of these deep dive videos, because I would be happy to do that. the whole point of this is kind of breaking them down pretty quickly. I'll spend a bit more time on this one because it is a bit more developed, and then a little bit less time as we move forward with these other two. But yeah, so if you've enjoyed the video so far, definitely give it a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to stay up to date, and hit the notification bell. All is the most important thing, so you never miss a new video. But to continue on here, the second tier starts at 5,000 pad tokens with a multiplier of 1.375. Third tier, 25,000 pad tokens with a multiplier of 1.75. And the fourth has 75,000 pad tokens. Okay, interesting. And then 2.125. Lastly is 150,000 pad tokens with that possesses 2.5 multiplier. Okay, so that's quite interesting. Follow them at Nearpad for updates. I'll give them a follow as well. Very, very early stage. Again, you guys have to understand that, right? So moving on here to Skyward. This is a bit different than a lot of other Launchpad ecosystems that we've found. But again, this is, again, the opportunity, right? Like just like when I'm traveling around to a different country. For example, I'm here in a beautiful Yerevan, Armenia. There's certain things where some people might get turned off by investing in a market like this if they're so focused on just, investing in the United States or investing in their home country. I see these little things where it's like, for example, this website design is not that good, right? It's not a very good website design. I'm going to be straight up honest. That's a very basic thing, but little things like this, that's where there's opportunity. Like if a building, for example, if you go into a market, like I was recently on the Black Sea in Batumi in Georgia, and you go into a market, everything's brand new, all new appliances, they're selling you like crazy on it. That turns me off a little bit, right? Because most people focus on that and they go, hey, this is so easy, the convenience of it, right? It's so easy to understand what's going on here. And it can almost be an interesting opportunity to go, hey, when people see this, the mass of people that see this, it looks almost boring, right? It's not catchy. Boost next near launch, not catchy at all. None of these things, it doesn't catch your eye, right? Similar to you go to a market, here in Yerevan, it is a bit different, but certain neighborhoods, you might think it's boring, but there is opportunity there, right? So it's all about it's all about time in the market, really. That's the main thing is not timing necessarily the market, but time in the market is more important. So you kind of understand these things as you go about. And I always like to look at contrasting when I'm walking around a city, meeting with real estate agents, going to a bank to get it set up, meeting with lawyers, identifying little things, being a bit more curious, and then also applying it to other investments. And again, that's kind of just a little bit of an analogy, a little bit of an aside here with Skyward, because let's be straight up honest, it's a very boring website. Like, right? I mean, this is the landing page. Do you think anyone is interested here to enter your email address? This is like 2010 type of website. So not knocking them necessarily. I do think it's interesting that their approach, but they've really done things very different than a lot of other launchpads that I've seen. You have to understand, obviously, Near, the actual ecosystem, Near, is not even it's ranked very, very low. I think it's ranked like in the 70s. So when you have projects being built on Near, they're going to be a bit further behind. But again, you have to see the upside there and also the downside opportunity, right? So we see here, they basically have this really interesting article that I was reading earlier. Are they a launchpad? So essentially, they describe themselves as the only launchpad natively built on Near that leverages existing DeFi components of the Near ecosystem described above. It is the best place to launch your token even if you don't have liquidity. Skyward platform enables price discovery and resistant to bots and Sybil attacks. So that's quite interesting as far as that goes. You can read this article. Again, I'll have it linked down below in the description, but I'm not going to bore you too much with this. It is quite interesting how they've changed things, and they really lay it out well. I think it's in this article. Yeah. Okay, this is how it's laid out. So you can see this is like their treasury. Again, I'm not going to bore you too much here, but just run through this yourself. Like they run through examples of these Skyward sales, and they have changed these things, and they lay it out here. Basically, so you don't have to use you don't have to boost projects with the Skyward token. You can use it with, from what I understand, some stable coins and for some Near tokens. But again, if you have any questions, any comments on this, and you want a bit of a deep dive, let me know in the comments down below. Not going to spend too much time here. They don't really have it laid out very well. To be quite straight up honest with you, as far as allocations to projects. So we'll move on here. So follow them at Skyward Finance if you're interested at all in identifying kind of an early stage project, right? So lastly here with Hio, we'll wrap it up here. Like I said, this is much more crowdfunding, right? Fundraising platforms. This is kind of this massive trend over the past 5, 6, 7 years is crowdfunding, right? So there's things like Kickstarter, but I love the idea to have it here in the crypto space using crypto, because essentially they're unlocking everything for everyone. And they kind of laid out here, the problems with the fiat fundraising platforms. And again, so this is kind of in that gray area in between a launchpad and something else, right? So again, you have incubators, you have accelerator pads, all these different things. But crowdfunding is quite interesting, and we actually haven't talked about that yet on the series, and that's what HEO is all about. So authoritarian control, so freezing of bank accounts, and the whole thing is no geographical limitations, which obviously I love because, again, I'm always traveling around different emerging markets. Typically, I spend about a month in whichever market I'm at just to get a better feel of the market, set up a kind of routine, set up some ties to that country, and see if there is interesting investment opportunities or business opportunities there. Currently, I'm doing a little bit more rapid pace of travel just because things are a bit more opened up here in kind of Eastern Europe. So I just left Georgia, was here in Armenia for a little bit, and actually tomorrow I'm heading to Ukraine. So anyways, moving on here. So this video will be posted tomorrow. I am recording it on the 8th. This video will be posted on the 9th. So just anyone who's watching in the future, it's June 8th currently while I'm recording this, so keep that in mind. So like I said, quite interesting what they're doing. They lay out kind of the HEO token community, the token metrics here. So initial circulating supply, 2,860,000 tokens, fully diluted. Moving on here, this is their white paper. Again, I don't want to bore you guys too much with this. If you want to see a deep dive video on any of these things, let me know. The point of this video was to really lay out, okay, what's the differentiating factor between these top 3 Launchpad projects in the Near platform? Because, I haven't even done a deep dive video on the Near token or the Near just platform in general. So instead of doing an individual video on each one of these Launchpads, which, hey, again, I can do moving forward as these projects develop, but to keep this Launchpad ecosystem map series rolling forward so we can get into things like Binance Smart Chain, think more like Ethereum Layer 1, Launchpads, I figured we'd kind of wrap all the Near Launchpads up in one video. So again, if you've enjoyed it so far, like I said, like the video. Obviously, if you dislike it, let me know why you dislike it in the comments. I am going to give them a follow here on Twitter, even though they're incredibly early stage. I like to kind of check out what's going on, right? What exactly is what exactly are they doing? So I do like kind of this whole thing with HEO where they're focusing on kind of breaking down the borders. I do love that. So like I said, that's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, like the video, subscribe to the channel to stay up to date, follow all these platforms we talked about. If you're interested, let me know in the comments. Any questions you have. Also, join the Telegram group, like I keep saying, because in that way we can have more long-form discussions. It's just a group of like-minded investors discussing all types of global investment strategies. And on YouTube, sometimes I like do a long reply to a comment, and then YouTube deletes the comment. It's like, what is going on here? That's been a bit frustrating recently, to be quite honest with you. And I just don't have the time, honestly, with all the travel and this YouTube channel is something I just do in my free time. I enjoy this, putting out the free information, the free content for you guys. So again, if you support the channel, I'm not asking for any donations, nothing. Just asking for follow us on Twitter at investglobal_IO. Join the Telegram group. Again, everything with the YouTube channel, notification bell, subscribe, all these different things. Follow these projects. So that's all for this one. Continuing on with the Launchpad ecosystem series, we'll be moving into Ethereum, kind of layer 1 and Binance, and then kind of some smaller Launchpad projects on some alternative blockchain ecosystems. But like I said, that's all for this one. Invest global, and until next time.